Audrey. Thanks so much for doing this interview.
Sure, Allison.
So to get us started, would you just introduce yourself to folks and share with them what your current position is?
Sure. So my name is Audrey Lee, and I'm currently in the Boston area. And for the last several years, I've had my own training and consulting business, Perspectiva. So through Perspectiva, I've been teaching negotiation, conflict management, and communication skills training, mostly for lawyers at law firms. And also, I've been an adjunct professor in negotiation at Northwestern with you, and also DePaul and UMass Boston's grad school program in conflict management. And currently, I'm also a mediator and training director at Boston Law Collaborative, an ADR consulting and law firm in Boston. So I've been doing that as well for the last couple of months.
So cool. So cool. So let's talk a little bit about how you got to this point in your career. So when did you first hear about dispute resolution? What was your introduction to the field?
So I first learned about negotiation in terms of ADR in law school. I went to Harvard, and I'd heard a lot about the negotiation workshop class, and I was lucky enough to get in, and I actually had Sheila Heen as my lecturer and fell in love with Sheila and negotiation during that winter term. So, from that point, I guess January 2004, I just thought, what a cool area. Didn't know it existed in any form, but just the idea of trying to help people really resolve differences and issues that are important to them. What are their interests? Trying to be that sort of role, either as a trainer, trying to help people figure things out for themselves, or then later as a mediator, finding out about mediation was wonderful. So that's really what got things started for me.
And so how, talk a little bit about, how you made the decision to pursue a career in dispute resolution. Because I know after law school, you worked in big law, but then how did you make the decision to transition to ADR, and about how far out of law school were you?
Yeah, so I ended up deciding to accept my law firm offer at a New York City law firm. So I started at Davis Polk in New York, where I summered as a 2L, and just kind of knew that I probably wasn't going to stay in a big law firm for too long. I ended up, for personal reasons, moving to Chicago with my husband, which is where we met, you and I, and there for 5 years, which was great, and lateraled into another big law firm, Winston & Strawn. And, really actually enjoyed practicing law in a lot of respects, but also knew it just wasn't something that really got me incredibly excited or left me very fulfilled. And I had some opportunities to sort of moonlight teaching negotiation and sort of helping out in large-scale trainings and programs at Harvard and elsewhere, and just realized that was more my passion and just something I was really excited about and felt really gratified in sort of being and serving in that kind of role. So that's what prompted my shift in around 2008.
And so how, what type of advice did you get when you were contemplating making that shift to dispute resolution in a more full-time capacity?
Yeah, so I spent a lot of time trying to meet with people who were doing anything related to this kind of work. So the lecturers from law school or trainers and consultants. And there wasn't something like your amazing blog at the time. So those were just people I knew and other people could recommend, just to literally get advice on how to try to get started. And the one thing that everyone said pretty uniformly was that you should take advantage of any opportunity to get experience. Like if you're interested in training or consulting, let people know that you're interested, that you've had, such and such experience, so that maybe you could assist them with the training, maybe observe a training, volunteer to do any of this, volunteer to take trainings in negotiation or mediation. And that's what I did for a long time before I was able to get, some of my own paid or private work.
And so, I see you and I have known each other now for a long time, and I see you as one of those individuals that succeeded, that after volunteering and working in this field for a long time in these sort of, I don't know how to say this, so I'm going to cut this part out, but like I see, I see you as one of these individuals who really succeeded creating a career in dispute resolution pretty early in your career. I know it wasn't your first career, but really early in your career. And I'm just curious, what would you say to somebody who's thinking about making a similar decision to pursue dispute resolution? The advice you got was to do anything and everything as you were pursuing this. What advice would you give others?
Hmm. I guess some holistic, somewhat practical advice I would give would be maybe a couple of things. One, if this really is your passion, to make sure that there is a place for it in your career or in the sort of professional set of things that you're doing. And if it ends up being something that is your, strong intention to be as your full or sole or primary career, I think that's great. And I think once people know that that's what they want to do, that's really exciting. And then really just to be creative and pretty persistent. And to, frankly, just prepare yourself for financial uncertainty, because, there are some positions, like for a time I also was a government mediator and trainer, which was great, terrific experience. Doing work like your position, Allison, at schools is wonderful. And then there are a lot of other positions or part-time, flexible sort of contract positions. So just kind of taking stock of the full picture and doing really some financial planning is also helpful.
Yeah, no, right. So if you're going to make this decision, recognize the potential financial impact of making that decision.
Yeah.
So then understanding that there is there's some uncertainty, or certainly there's a financial impact compared to being at Big Law like you had the opportunity to be at. What would you say is your main motivator? What sort of drives you to pursue and maintain that persistence to be part of this field full time?
I think it really is a realization that I had in 2007, maybe, that I did have a really comfortable, pretty interesting position at a firm at that time. And I think I was doing pretty well, and I probably could have progressed. And I just was bored. It wasn't interesting enough. It wasn't sort of gratifying enough for me. And maybe that's a personality flaw on my part. But I just feel like dispute resolution really broadly defines whether that's for me doing a mediation or teaching negotiation or coaching and communication skills. It's so interesting. I find it fascinating. I feel like it is having even like a very small positive impact on maybe even one person's, conversation that seemed impossible, or a relationship that's really hard. And I just find that very personally meaningful and satisfying. So I think it is sort of the internal belief that it's the right path for me, even though there are, many tough moments in just figuring things out career-wise and balancing personal and family demands.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely a decision, a choice that we make to go into this. Although I've heard others say, like, it's not really even a choice. Like, it's your calling. It's the thing that makes you feel most satisfied.
I could see that too. Yeah, I think that's a fair description as well.
And then today, here you are. You have a full-time position at BLC. You also have your own training company, Perspectiva. What would you say, what do you most enjoy about being in this field now?
I think something that I really do enjoy, and this I think is partly personality at least, is just the diversity of things that I could be doing in any given week or month. So I could be mediating a case. I could be teaching a training for 24 people. I could be teaching a grad school negotiation class or law school negotiation class for X number of students. I could be doing one-on-one communication skills coaching. So I really like that kind of mix of things. And it's also terrific to have such wonderful, amazing colleagues like you, Allison, and friendships that really help sustain and develop one another, just in terms of on a one-on-one basis, and then just more generally the folks who end up gravitating toward this type of work.
Yeah, I guess I would have to say I share that feeling, that sentiment. It is quite a joy to be able to get to know folks in our field, and I've so enjoyed our friendship over the years. And it's really, and I say this to you all the time, I'm just so excited to see how you have landed at BLC and continue to succeed with your own business and Perspectiva.
Well, I am very proud of you, Allison.
Thanks, Audrey. All right. Well, anything else you'd like to share with those who might be watching this interview?
I don't think so. I think you asked a lot of good questions.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Audrey, for doing this. I really appreciate you sharing with folks what your career path looked like, what motivated you to pursue this career, and the successes you've had. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Allison.